Students, so in the previous video we have learned about the different types of mixtures, and we have already learned that the mixtures, they may contain various components in varying proportions, in different proportions. Now all the components present in a mixture may not be useful to us. Sometimes they may be harmful to us, and it may also happen that when we need something, when we need a component from a mixture, we need in an extremely pure state. So what do? We need to separate the components of the mixture. So in order to remove the harmful substances and in order to get the useful substances from the mixture, in order to purify the mixture, we need to separate the components of the mixture. So today our main point of discussion will be discussing about separation of mixtures. There are various processes for separation of the components of the mixture. We'll be going in detail about it. So first of all, why do we need to separate the components of the mixture? We need to separate the components of the mixture because we want to remove the unwanted and harmful substances and we want to obtain the pure substances. So look here, we'll just write down that is a need for separation. What is the need for separation? So that is to remove harmful and unwanted components from mixture, then to obtain components in a pure form. We need to separate the components. It may happen that the mixture may contain certain unwanted substances, so we need to separate the impurity. Or even if it may also happen that the mixture may contain certain components which may not be harmful, but that is not required for our purpose. It may contain, suppose if it is a mixture is containing sand and water, I'm not saying sand is harmful, sand can be utilized for various other purposes. Or suppose if mixture contains sugar and water, sugar is not harmful, but we need pure water. We don't need sweetness into the water. We need to separate out sugar from water. So it may not be harmful, but sometimes we need to separate the components because it does not serve our purpose. We need water in an extremely pure form. So the two reasons over here, that is either to remove the harmful and unwanted components or to obtain the components in a pure form. Or that is the unwanted substance can be removed. That is, suppose if the sand is present or stones are present, stones may be unwanted, so we need to separate them out. But if you talk about sugar and water, sugar is not harmful, but still, or sugar is not unwanted, we can utilize sugar for some other purpose. And we can utilize water for some other purpose. So these are the certain reasons, the two main reasons for separation of the mixture. That is need for separation of components of mixture. Okay. Now you just cannot adopt any method for separation. Depending on certain, you can say, there are certain principles on which you have to adopt a particular method. Certain principles, certain criteria. So by looking into that criteria, by just taking into consideration those criteria, only then you can adopt a particular method. When you will be discussing, when I will just discuss several methods, this concept is going to become more clear. So depending on the criteria, there is a principle of depending on various criteria, the principle of separation on various criteria. The principle of separation depends upon now look here, what are the various criteria that the principle of separation depends upon. Let us go through those various criteria. So first of all, it is a type of the mixture. Type of mixture. So I hope you are clear with the previous video. Type of mixture, that is solid, solid, solid liquid, solid gas. So we have to take into consideration what type of mixture it is. So first of all, we have to be very sure what type of mixture it is. Second is we have to whether it is a homogeneous mixture, whether it is a heterogeneous mixture, whether it is soluble, insoluble, all these different things, different points that has to be considered under this. That is the type of the mixture. Next is a physical state. Physical state of mixture. Whether it is solid, liquid, I am writing down over here in short, mixture, whether it is a solid, liquid, what type of liquid gas, what type of mixture. So physical state of the mixture, here you can consider homogeneous, heterogeneous, whether the particles are big or whether the particles are small. Then shape of the particles, shape of the components of the various components which are present into the mixture. Size of the components, whether the particle size is so small whether you can see it with your naked eyes or not. If you are unable to see those various particles of the mixture, various components of the mixture, then it will be difficult. But if you can see, the process will be easier. So size of the components, shape we have finished, that is color of the mixture. Sometimes the color may be too dark, sometimes the color may be too light. So if the color is too dark, it becomes difficult for us to identify the components which are present into the mixture. If the color is light, then our work is easier. Like suppose if you are having a mixture of rice, and in the rice there are some unwanted particles, that is the sand, those stone particles. So rice is white in color and stone is black in color or grey in color, so it becomes easier for us to identify. So color of the mixture, size of the component, stone size is very less, at the same time size of the rice is little bit bigger. So these are certain criteria. Besides this, various characteristic properties. So various characteristic properties such as, now here there is no space, so under various characteristic property, look here, all these are 6 point over here, various characteristic property I am writing down over here. I cannot rub this part also because I need this particular diagram, so I don't want to waste your time and make a lengthy video in drawing it, so I have drawn it previously. So various characteristic properties such as boiling point, melting point, then volatility, ability to sublime, whether the substance is able to sublime, then magnetic properties, whether the substance is the components of a mixture that can be attracted by a magnet or not. So these okay, now I think you are coming for the first time over this term, that is volatility. Now what is volatility? Now certain liquids are such that when you leave them in open air, you will find that they will vaporize out, that they will after some time you will find that the substance, that is the liquid, has got vaporized and you will no longer be able to see that liquid. I give you a very good example. You have those nail polish removers, those liquids, okay? Now that is nothing but acetone. Now if you leave that acetone for some time in open space, what will happen after some time? The liquid vaporizes out. You will find that there will be no liquid into the bottle because you have kept it open. So this property we call this as volatility. At the same time, certain other liquids, like even that spirit, when you go for taking an injection, that liquid which they apply on your skin, no, you feel that cold sensation on your skin. So that is also volatile in nature. That is, when it is applied on the skin, it remains over there and after some time it disappears. So this property we call it as volatility. You already know that is a sublimation. So you have studied in the lower classes what is sublimation, or Again, after some time in detail, if anybody, any of you are not clear with it, after some time we'll be going into the detail. So for the timing, I'll tell you in short what is sublimation. That is certain solids when they have been heated, they should be going to the liquid state, but instead of going to the liquid state, they go directly into the vapor state. Now this phenomenon where a solid substance on heating, it goes directly into the vapor state without going to the intermediate liquid state, that is called as sublimation. So this will come to it later on. And once again, magnetic properties, that is substances which can be attracted by the magnet, we call them that they are having the magnetic properties. The ones which are not attracted by the magnet, obviously we say they are not having any of the magnetic property. So these are certain characteristic properties on which the components of the mixture, they should be then we look on to these characteristic property before we start with a particular process. So what are those different points? That is the principle of separation, that it depends on various criteria. So what are the various criteria? That is type of the mixture, physical state of mixture, shape of the component, size of the components, color of the mixture, and various characteristic property of the mixture, such as the boiling point, the various characteristic property of components of the mixture, such as the boiling point, melting point, volatility, ability to sublime, and magnetic property. So once you are clear with all these properties, only then we can adopt a particular method of separation. Now we'll just go through certain methods of separation, then this idea will be more clear to you. So I'll just rub this code before I start with the next method of with the first method of separation. So here, first type of mixture that we are adopting over here, that is the separation of a solid-solid mixture. Solid mixture. Alright, so let me give you an example of a solid mixture. Suppose if you are having rice, and inside the rice you will find that there are certain unwanted particles, those small stones, which are the unwanted components. So when such type of mixture is there, so both rice is also solid, the stone particles, that is also solid. So both of them are in the same phase, same state. We can say both of them are in the same state. So the method that we can adopt over here is a mechanical separation, or which is also called as hand picking. That is, you pick up the unwanted particles with your hand. So that means simply if you have the rice, you can take in a plate and you can just pick up those stones and you can throw it off. Now just imagine, suppose if the quantity of stones are more as compared to the quantity of rice, what will happen? You keep on picking up the stones. The day will get over, but you won't be able to eat rice on that particular day. So what is the basic criteria over here? That is the component that is to be separated over here. That is at least one of the components, that is, it should be less in quantity. Obviously, if rice is less in quantity, there is no use of separating that if it is in smaller quantity. But if the stone which is in the less quantity present over there, you just throw out certain stones and you can utilize the rice over there. So you can use it for cooking. So here the first criteria, and at the same time those small stone particles, they should be recognizable. You should be able to see them with your eyes. You imagine, suppose if the stone particles are so small and you cannot see them with, like, it becomes very difficult for you to separate them out. If they are just like fine dust, how will you separate? The process will become difficult in that case. Then we cannot adopt this simply by hand picking. Then we have to take a sieve and just by sieving we can separate it out. But suppose if the particle size is sufficient, the stone particles are sufficiently large enough, then we can separate out. So what is the criteria for when we adopt this method as mechanical separation or hand picking? That is, quantity of mixture is small. Suppose if you have been, quantity of mixture is small. Just imagine, suppose if you have been, if you have whatever rice is sufficient for your family, that is not large enough. So for that you can adopt a mechanical separation. You can just remove. But just imagine, that is, suppose if you have to prepare rice for your whole city. So you just imagine the quantity of rice and the quantity of stones, and that is how much that you have to separate out, how much that you have to work hard. Then such type, like when the mixture is in large quantity, obviously we have to adopt certain methods which can be done in the industries. But when you are using your hand, so obviously for your family whatever is sufficient, or for two families whatever is sufficient, only that much you can do. So only then this method can be adopted. So quantity of mixture is small. Either you can say quantity of mixture is small. At the same time we can also say that the quantity of impurity or the component that is to be separated, that is also less, that should also be less. Component to be separated, that is stone over here. If you are taking rice plus stone, so the component to be separated, that is stone, I am writing down over here in bracket, is less in quantity. Then, or we can say impurity is less in quantity. Impurity, if it is not rice and stone, if it is something else over here, we can use it as impurity is less in quantity. Both the points are the same. Here I have given you example, but both the points are same. Then the size of the particles of the impurity is large. Of the impurity is large. If they are very small, it will be very difficult for you to identify. That hand picking will become very difficult. Then we will be using the sieve. What can be the next point? Obviously the large, that is difference in color, of the components. Sometimes it happens now that rice you buy, and that is rice particles are white in color, rice grains are white in color, and the impurity which is present over there, that is also white in color. And then when you eat it, you find something has come into your mouth and you realize something which was white in color was there, because both the color were same. It becomes difficult to separate. So color, there is difference in color of the components, that is the two components, the one which you want to separate and your main component, both of them, they should be having the different color. There should be large difference in color of the component. What else? Difference in shape and size. Difference in size. Okay, size I have already mentioned over here. So difference in shape we can say, or they should be easily recognized. The components should be easily recognizable. They should be easily recognized. Alright. So this is how, when the component satisfies all these criteria, only then we can adopt this method of mechanical separation, that is hand picking. Suppose, so here let me show you. The example is very simple, but still those of you are not very clear with it. Suppose if this is your container where you are having your rice particles, or let me draw the rice particles, let me represent it with your red pen. And so rice has been represented with the red pen, and the stone particles will be represented with the black pen. So you can see these stone particles are very less in number, very easily you can pick them out, you can throw them off, you can dispose them off, and the process, that is, this is a mixture of your rice plus your stones. Very easily it can be separated. Clear? We'll move on to the next method. Let me rub the board. So next method of separation is, second method, magnetic separation. Magnetic separation. Obviously, when can we adopt this method, magnetic separation? That is, your one of the component is magnetic in nature. So what will happen if one of the component is magnetic in nature? The component which is attracted by the magnet can be removed by the magnet, and the other component will remain behind. So let me show you first which type of mixture. Let me give you an example. Suppose if you are having over here so this is your mixture of iron and sulfur. Iron and sulfur. Look here. This is a mixture of iron plus sulfur. It is a mixture. That is why I have written down a plus sign over here. Don't get confused, student. It's a mixture of iron and sulfur. That means no heating has taken place, both of them. If both of them components will be heated, they are going to form iron sulfide. But simply just iron has been mixed with sulfur particles. Okay. Now, so here we know that iron is magnetic in nature. What will happen? Suppose if you are bringing a magnet near to it. If you bring a magnet near to it, let's consider this is a proper magnet. U-shaped magnet, you bring near to this. The moment this is a magnet. Now the moment the magnet is brought near to this mixture, what will happen? These red particles, that is red dots, which I have represented, the red ones, which are what? Is your iron. Okay? Iron, and the black ones is your sulfur. Fine. So the moment this is brought near to this, we'll find these iron particles will cling to this magnet. Okay? So you repeat this, you bring it again near to this mixture, iron particles will cling to this. Again, the next time you bring more iron particles will cling to it, and you just separate it out into, from here you remove it and you keep it into some other plate over there. So in this way the separation can be carried out. So this method is useful. Let me find out my pen. So this method is useful only when the component is magnetic in nature. Or let me write down over here. So this method is used when the component is magnetic in nature. If the component is not magnetic or in nature, then this method it cannot be employed. For example, that is if the components are having mixture of iron, cobalt, nickel, or a mixture of iron plus sand. Here we have taken iron plus sulfur. So only under these criteria, that is if one of the component is magnetic in nature, now if both the components are magnetic in nature, even then it cannot be adopted. Then again both the components will cling to it. That means only one of the components should be magnetic in nature. That is one of the component when, it's better to write down, one of the component is magnetic in nature, then this method of, that is a magnetic separation, it can be employed. Clear? So we move on to the next method. That is sedimentation and decantation. Sedimentation and decantation. The word itself will tell you what does it mean. So when the particles are heavy and insoluble in the mixture, when, now suppose, let me give you an example. Suppose if you are having your, let me show you first, then we'll come to the criteria. That is the various things involved over here. Now just imagine this is your beaker containing a mixture of water and sand. Okay, what we do, I am representing over here the sand particles over here with the red pen over here. Clear? So mixture of water and sand. What we do, we allow this to remain undisturbed for some time. Okay, so when we allow this to remain undisturbed for some time, let me show you, after some time these sand particles being heavier in nature, they are going to settle down at the bottom of the beaker. So this is the first, that is a beginning, and you are allowing it to settle down, that is you leave it undisturbed for some time. These particles of sand is going to settle down. Why they will settle down? Because they are heavy. Sand particles are, let me write down over here, sand particles are heavy and insoluble. Sand particles are heavy and insoluble. Being heavy and insoluble, they are going to settle down at the bottom. So when we are allowing this, that is the sand particles to settle down over here, this process we call this as the sedimentation. So the process of settling down, sedimentation. We have come to this process over here. This process is called as sedimentation. How do we define it? That is a process of settling down of the heavy impurities. Process of settling down, suspended. They were suspended in the beginning, suspended and heavy particles or components in a mixture. This process of settling down, this we call it as a process of sedimentation. All these sand particles, they have settled down over here. Then what do? You take another beaker, I am drawing it over here, you take, or let me draw it over here. You take another beaker or another container and, okay, now this liquid, this upper clear liquid, that is what, clear water over here. Now this upper clear liquid, this is called as the supernatant liquid. Supernatant liquid. And if it is clear, we can call it a supernatant clear liquid. Very carefully, what you do is you pour this upper supernatant liquid into this. Okay, so you can pour it either directly or you can take the help of a glass rod. When you pour this liquid, no, sometimes it falls down. So what can you do? You can just take one glass rod and with the help of a glass rod, that is you pour it from, start pouring it from this end, the liquid will start trickling down and is going to fall down over here, it is going to fill into this. Okay, so we are using glass rod. Why? Because so that the liquid should not be falling down. What happens when we carry out various experiments in the laboratory? You know, sometimes we don't want our liquid to be lost. We want to preserve that. We want that our liquid should not be lost during the experiment. So it's better that we use a glass rod when we are carrying out into the laboratory. When we are doing it at home, then fine, even if some liquid has been lost, it's fine. So when you don't want the liquid to be lost, we use a glass rod and then we pour it, and this liquid, it trickles down through this glass rod, gets collected over here. And in this, what remains over here, this sand particles which is remaining over here, we call these sand particles which sediments down. Obviously this come down, they get settled down, so we call them as sediment. So sand particles which are acting as a sediment will remain in this beaker, and this supernatant clear liquid, it will be coming into this another beaker, into another container. So we have separated out water from sand. Clear? And this process where you are carefully pouring out the upper supernatant liquid, this is called as the process of decantation. There is no place over here, so let me write down over here, that is, I am writing down somewhere over here. Okay, over here, that is decantation. Clear, students? So this first part, that is a sedimentation, and the second part, this is called as the decantation. Whenever we carry out sedimentation, we always follow it with decantation. That is both the process that has to be done together. That is one after the other. First the sedimentation and then the decantation. So I hope it's clear. That is the sedimentation and decantation. So what can we say? That is the process of settling down of suspended heavy insoluble impurities. What is sedimentation and decantation together? How would you define? The process of okay, I have already written over here sedimentation, the process of settling down of the suspended heavy impurities. So when can we adopt this method? That is when the particles are heavy. When can we adopt? When the particles are heavy. Particles or components in a mixture are heavy and insoluble. Only then this method can, that is sedimentation and decantation, it can be done. If the particles are soluble or if the particles are lighter, then this process, it cannot be employed. Okay. Next we move on to the next method of separation. So let me just rub the board before I start with this. So this was our fourth method. This is our fourth method. Process of filtration. Okay. Now when there is a process, let me just give you an example. Suppose if you are having a mixture of sand and water. Let me first explain. Suppose if you are having a mixture of sand plus water. Okay. That is, one is in the liquid state and another is in the solid state. At the same time, this is also insoluble. Sand is also insoluble in water. So look here, we can employ this method of separation, that is, we can employ the process of filtration. Now at home we carry out in simple method of separation. You know that when your mothers or when at home when we prepare tea, we take that strainer and we separate out tea leaves from the tea. You get the tea which is to be which we can drink into the cup, and into the strainer remains your tea leaves. So that is a simple method of filtration that we carry out at home. But this method of filtration we also need to carry out in laboratory. Then obviously we cannot use that strainer which we are using at home. We have to use the laboratory apparatus. So look over here. This is a beaker which has been taken over here, and inside we arrange this whole thing in this way. That is, you can see that this is a funnel. Okay, the funnel, it has been supported with the help of a stand. Let me take my ruler first, excuse me students. Okay, so you can see this is a stand which is supporting this funnel. Now all these apparatus, these are made up of glass, a good quality glass. So over here, this is a funnel made up of glass, and this is a beaker. This funnel, it has been given the support with the help of a stand, and the stem of this funnel goes into this beaker. Fine. And what we do over here, inside this funnel, we just put one filter paper. Now filter paper is a special kind of, it is a thick paper which has got some like, it is a good quality paper. Now it is also called as the Whatman paper. So here, what we do is, let me show you how that has to be done. Okay. So a filter paper is somewhat in this way, circular in shape. Whenever you will go to chemistry lab, you can see over there the filter paper, it has got some pores. It will be thicker as compared to the ordinary paper. Your ordinary paper is thin, but the filter paper will be thicker, stiff like this. Okay, so this type of the paper, and what you have to do, you have to fold it in this way. So I am folding it in this way, clear, and after folding you have to give it one more fold over here. So I have given another fold over here, and you get the shape of a cone over here. And then after that you have to open it in this way. Look here, it is in the form of a cone which you open it in this way. Clear? So you have to prepare it in the form of a cone, and that you have to keep it inside this funnel this way. So this cone will be inside this funnel, inside over here. This filter paper will be acting as your filter over here. So after that, what you do, that is your water containing sand. Very carefully, with the help of a glass rod. I hope you again I need not say this why we are using a glass rod, because we don't want our liquid to be lost. So with the help of a glass rod, we pour this water and sand into this. So what will happen? Onto this filter paper, that sand particles over here, the filter paper which is over here, the sand particles will remain over here, and the clear water you will be getting over here into this beaker. So this clear water which you get over here into the beaker, that is called as the filtrate. That is called as the filtrate. Alright, there is no space over here. Let me write down this way over here. So that is called as the filtrate. And the sand particles which remain on the filter paper, that is called as the residue. So this process, okay, now after this whole of the liquid that you pour into it, once all of that water, you get the clear water over here, that is the filtrate when you collect over here, you can just remove this paper in this way, and you will just open it, you will be getting all your sand particles over here. So I have shown over here in this, that is on the, when you open it, all the sand particles will be over here. You can just collect, you can just scrap off the sand particles, that is the residue from here, and your clear water, that is your filtrate, will be collected over here. So this is, this is the proper diagram that is that has been given in most of the books, how this process that has been carried out. But actually, when this process has been carried out in the laboratory, the students of class 11 and 12, they need to carry out in the laboratory several times. So there's always, it becomes very like every time it becomes very time consuming to attach all this stand and all. So what they do, they just take one conical flask, and inside the conical flask they fix one funnel. Then they don't require to use one stand over here, and very fast, because when we carry out the experiments in the laboratory, we don't have much time. And with the help of the glass rod, we just pour out the mixture containing sand and water. We'll find that the sand gets collected over here, which is acting as a residue, and the filtrate will be collected over here. Whatever the filtrate may be, if it is water or any other solvent, that gets collected over here into the conical flask. So this method of separation, we call this as your, that is a filtration. So this process, it can be employed when you are having a solid liquid mixture. When you are having a solid liquid mixture such that the components, that is your sand is insoluble, such that the solid particles are insoluble, such that the solid particles or one of the component in which one of the component is insoluble. That is, it is not capable of passing out through this filter paper. It does not pass through the filter paper. There are various types of filter. This Filter paper is the most commonly used filter paper that we always use in the laboratory. Besides, there are other filters also. That is your charcoal, glass wool, sand. These are the other types of filter, but this is the most common filter that you will always be coming across. Okay, so with this we complete with the filtration. We come to the last method of separation, that is our gravitational method. Now, gravitational method. Now, when I say gravitational method, obviously it has got something to do with the gravity. The particles has got something to do with the gravity. Now, let me first give you an example, then I will explain this method, how that method can be done. Okay, suppose if you are having a mixture of sand plus sawdust plus water. You are having three components. This is solid, this is also solid, and this is liquid. Now look over here, sand particles are bigger in size, they are heavy. Sawdust particles, they are light in weight, they are light in weight, they are lighter in weight. And water obviously is a medium for both these components. Now just imagine, suppose if I am taking one beaker over here, I will pour out this mixture containing sand. Let me write over here because I will be needing this space. That is sand plus sawdust plus water. Okay. So we have just taken it into a container, we leave it undisturbed for some time. What will happen? Sand particles are going to settle down over here. So let me represent all these sand particles again with our red color. And saw particles, that is sawdust, particles of saw, that is with a green color. Sawdust with a green color. So you leave it undisturbed for some time. What will happen over here in the next stage? Let me draw it a bit bigger. In the next stage, sand particles being heavier will be settling down at the bottom. So if the sand particles are settling down at the bottom, what process it is undergoing? Obviously sedimentation, which you have learned some time back. And saw particles being lighter, which are green in color, which I have represented with a green color, these will be floating at the top over here. Clear? So this is after when you leave it undisturbed for some time. What you do, you take another container and very carefully you pour out this liquid with the help of a glass rod into another beaker. So this water containing, okay, let me draw this, water containing sawdust. So here there is a sawdust, water containing sawdust gets separated out. Sawdust being lighter, it will be on the top. You can use a glass rod over here for every time whenever you pour a liquid, the process will be much better and much easier. Alright, it will trickle down through the glass rod. So sand remains over here and your sawdust gets collected over here into this another beaker. Clear? So what we are undergoing, that is, this is undergoing a sedimentation. So this process has been carried out in several steps. Once you do this, what you can do again, you can subject it to the process of filtration, which I have shown over here. So what will happen? The sawdust will be collected over here as a residue, and your clear water will be collected into another beaker. So you collect sand also. When this happens, sand will be collected in one beaker, sawdust will be collected on the filter paper, and you will be getting clear water over here. Or if you are taking a conical flask over here, you will see that your sawdust will be collected over here. Let me show it over here with a green color, because our sawdust is green in color. And my representation of sawdust is not green in color, but I have represented it with a green color. It's not possible for me to get all the colors over here, so the representation is green color. So the sawdust will be remaining over here, okay, into the filter paper as a residue, and your clear water will be getting collected over here and into this beaker which you pour out. So this will be remaining only with the sand particles. Clear? So we'll just show over here the sand particles over here. So here one method, that is gravitation separation, which we are carrying out, we are also including over here. So along with in the gravitational separation, you are also carrying out sedimentation and decantation. You are also carrying out your filtration. Okay. So this method, when it can be employed, when the particles, when the components are such that they are insoluble, components are insoluble, what else? There's a difference in their weight. There is one of the component is much lighter. One of the component is much lighter, as in case of the sawdust, and another component is much heavier. Component is much heavier. Only then this method of separation it can be employed. Otherwise also the word itself, that is gravitational separation or gravitational method, it itself means, gravitation means what? Something has to do with the gravity. Now what has got to do with the gravity? Something which is more heavier will be going down and something which is lighter will be remaining up, and hence it gets a name as a gravitational method of separation. So here as far as I remember, so we have included all the methods over here. Let me go through the points. Fine. So all the methods of, not all the methods of separation, that is today we have finished with the 4 methods of separation. We'll continue in the next video with the remaining processes. Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 methods of separation we have completed in this method. There are some few more methods of separation. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you, students.